Hi, welcome to Books and Bocadillos, or welcome back. My name is Maria Andrea, and today I'm bringing on a tag that I wasn't tagged in. I hope that's okay. The tag is How Do We Rate Our Books? Original tag by Emily at Novell Novels, and I love this tag. I watched a lot of you who are probably watching do this tag and really loved it. And I think this is a perfect tag to do right now because I am celebrating my first year booktube anniversary, and I have ideas for the next 3 weeks of content that I want to make and upload to booktube. So I thought I'd start here so that way this is a good entryway into what I want to talk about, the next conversations I want to have. So how do we read our books? This is my third attempt filming this. I have not managed to get through this in my allotted 30-minute time limit in my software. So let's get to it. Drinking a peppermint tea. Okay. One, how often do you DNF and what makes you DNF? I don't DNF very often. What makes me DNF is usually one of three reasons. And I'll talk about books and talk about the reasons. So one, the red tent. The Red Tent by Anita Diamante. I DNF'd it during what I call the melted butter years in my brain. The melted butter years are the years from 2016 to 2019. Those years just feel like melted butter in my brain. So I don't know at what point exactly in from 2016 to 2019 I read this book, but I did. And I listened to the audiobook. I got to 75% mark in the audiobook and DNF'd it because I wasn't enjoying it and I was very angry. Now, for me, reasons why I read is for enjoyment. I'm not saying that enjoyment means I have to feel positive things all the time. Enjoyment can be you if the book makes you feel something and makes it you feel something that is productive. So sometimes you may watch a movie or read a book, at least I do, because you need a good cry. And it's okay to cry. And sometimes you want that to just make you like shed tears that you need to shed. I like that kind of book experience. I also like an experience where maybe you feel angry, but it's a productive anger. It's an anger that inspires you to change. Maybe it teaches you something. Maybe it widens your perspective, gives you better understanding of humanity, of people, of nature, of our existence in the world. Like there's so many things to learn and be inspired by. And this book was making me I did not like these characters. I was angry at the patriarchy. I was reading this alone. So the other reason, enjoyment is one, or enjoyment, like it's a big umbrella, what that could mean. But the other reason is for social engagement. So I usually like to read because I like talking about books. And so in my real life, I will have coffee with a friend and we're having a conversation and they bring something up and I'm like, oh my gosh, have you read this book? You might really like it. Or this book talks about the same kind of themes that we're talking about in this conversation. So I really like that. And people who know me in real life will tell you I do that very, 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 very often. And maybe that's annoying to some of my friends. I don't know. But I do. And so the red tent, I was alone reading it. I was very angry. I might read this again. I don't have plans to pick it up, but I could be persuaded to if I was reading it with somebody. And maybe that would change the reading experience. The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. I love Colson Whitehead. I think he's a great author. I think this book is very well written. I loved it. I had a lot of big feelings while reading this book, but the timing. When I started reading this book, I had just started a job in hospice. I would be driving to make a hospice visit, and I would be in my car just weeping. Did I need to weep because I felt sorrow from what this book is about? Yes. But it got to the point where I was crying all the time. I was crying and I was dealing with some very difficult conversations, end of life, grief, and it was just all too much. And I needed a little bit of a like different kind of experience in my reading life. So I had to set the Underground Railroad aside, but it was a soft DNF. It's a DNF that I do want to get back to. It's a book that is very important to me. I think it's a very important book to read. I think it should be on like every whatever number of books to read before you die. Like, I think this story is important and I want to read it, give it another try, read it again, but actually finish it. And maybe that would be better now that I know like what it is about. Maybe that would be a book that I would want to read in a book club or a buddy read. So I DNF'd for now for the time. Maybe timing was an issue. And then a third example of a book I DNF'd was Lush Money by Angelina M. Lopez. So Angelina M. Lopez has been on my radar for a long time. I've known of her writing and her books through podcasts, podcasts where there's conversations about romance literature. And also, once the internet knows that you like a certain kind of article or theme or topic, then it feeds it to you. And so I've also been fed articles where Angelina Lopez's books are featured. And so I have her books and I have her on my radar. I have some of her books in my Kindle. And so this book I picked up during Garbagis of 2023. I didn't finish it during Garbagis. So I had to set it aside because then September came and I am a mood reader. And so when September came up, I was ready to leave the the smutty content, and I wanted to read more for Hispanic Heritage Month. I was really, 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 really into space operas, and I didn't know that that's a thing on BookTube in September. So I kind of just accidentally fell into that world, and I'm so excited for that this year for Space Opera September. But I was really into like sci-fi and fantasy, and I was gearing myself up for like spooky season, and so my mood was going in a different direction. I do have plans to pick up Lush Money again for the Garbagis Wasted Weekend this coming weekend. I'm really excited. So I'm probably going to try to finish that next weekend, this coming weekend. So how do you rate your books 1 star? I've only rated a book 1 star once, and it was because it had a lot of things that I consider problematic. So things I don't like in a book: white savior trope, glorified suicide, problems with like ableism, and problematic like disability representation. This book had all those things. Also, I didn't know this then, but now I was able to kind of connect while I was thinking about this. So I read Mr. Dickens and His Carol and Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol over the holiday season. And in Mr. Dickens and His Carol, Samantha Silva portrays that relationship of Charles Dickens with his audience. And so people would go up, like people would search him out, and like when they would meet him, they would ask, "Can I be a character in your next novel?" Or they would ask him, "Why did you kill, like you wrote this character based on this person and you killed them?" So then the supposition was you killed them because you have a problem with them. And I thought like, wow, like that was the way the audience perceived of the authors, the writers killing off. And even Charles Dickens in Samantha Silva's novel, all fictional, the character of Charles Dickens kind of like makes fun and like admits to it, like, oh, train, sorry. um so the Charles Dickens does in the character says like, oh yeah, 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 like if you make me mad, I'm gonna kill you in my next novel. So this book that I gave a 1 star to, they it was a white author killing off a black character, and I that didn't sit well with me, and I had a problem with that. But then when I was processing and thinking about that reading experience, I kind of thought maybe without really realizing it, I had that internalized feeling. And so I gave it a 1 star because I had so many problems with the story. It was well written, so it wasn't a badly written book, but I had so many problems with the storyline that I was like, I own the book. I do not want to donate it. I don't want to put it in like a free little library. I don't want to resell it. because I have so many problems, I don't want to really promote this book or get it into anybody else's hands. So that book is now sitting in my craft room waiting to become altered art. So I'm going to get ready to tear some pages and scribble all over it and give it some new life. Um, so yeah, that's one star book. A two-star book. What is a two-star book for you? Examples of a two-star book. So two-star books are books that I don't really feel like they live up to the hype or the expectation. And maybe I have some problems with certain things, but I don't think that they're major problems. And I think I do ask myself, well, maybe it's just me, right? Maybe it's just me. And I'm the reason why this book didn't work for me. It has nothing to do with the author or the book. Examples of this is love, chai, and other four-letter words. So I went to this book expecting a romance about an interracial couple. And I really, really wanted to love it. I was really looking forward to reading this romance. And it did have some of that white savior trope a little bit. And it also um, felt like it was fitting characters into stereotypes. But the stereotypes didn't feel terribly problematic. They just felt like stereotypes, like easy characterization. And I didn't really like it. I didn't find some of the relationships believable in that novel. And so I had it on Kindle, so it's not a book that I owned. But if I had owned that book, this would be a book that I would put in a free little library. I would donate, I would resell it. I don't think that it's a problem for it to be out in the world. I think that it maybe just made me. Maybe my expectations were too high. Um, Maybe I was just wanting something different. And then another um, example of a two-star book was from the mixed up files of Miss Basil E. Frankweiler. I picked this book up because I love Dash and Lily, the Netflix series. I watch it every year. I'm a sucker for like sweet YA romances. And so I went into it. Whenever I go to YA or middle grade, I usually go for a feel good kind of experience. And I didn't get this from that. I mean, I think what it brought up for me was just it made me realize that my childhood was so far from what these children's lived experiences were, and it was felt like I I just couldn't believe this experience that these kids were having. Um, and I was talking to some friends after I read it during our bookish weekend in December, and I was telling them about it. One of my friends said, "Oh, is it that maybe you feel like a story needs to resonate with you?" And I'm still thinking about that, but I don't think 100% yes, because I do read very widely, and I read stories that I don't resonate with. I do read about people that I can't relate to, and I have read books that I really enjoyed of other experiences that are not my own. And how boring would life be if I only read things that resonated with me? I would have nothing to read. So that's not necessarily true, but perhaps this book brought up some things for me that I really just felt like, wow, like, I don't know, like I this doesn't fit. So it didn't fit for me. I don't know. I probably could do another video in which I go in a little bit more and maybe more vulnerable and talk a little bit more about like my thoughts exactly. But I'll leave it at that because I have 30 minutes to get through this video. The next question is a three-star book a good book for you? So an example of a three-star book is Rebecca for me. This book is a great book. It's very well written. It's it's amazing. Like it's like on every list of books you need to read before you die, right? Like this is highly recommended. Because it's highly recommended, it was overhyped. So this fits the category of a three-star book that is way overhyped, that has my expectations like way up here, and then I read it, and what happens is this book was published in the 1930s. It's lived a very long life, and it's inspired a lot of great storytelling. So because it's inspired so many other stories and storylines, when I read it, I was like, oh, I know what's going to happen. Like, oh, yeah. Uh, okay. Yeah. Like, it was not anything new or fresh or like, I didn't really feel much. I'm a feelings person. Yes. Like I need to feel something and I like feelings matter to me. So yes, my ratings and my reviews of books are highly subjective because reading is personal. It's personal to me. So this book didn't live up to the hype and didn't live up to my expectations. Felt kind of predictable. 3 stars. Um, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, another 3-star book. I read this book last year. I had finished reading An Offer from a Gentleman, which is book 3 by Julia Quinn in the Bridgerton series. And book 3, which is Benedict's story, was a 4-star read for me. And I wasn't expecting that. It was totally unexpected, but I loved An Offer from a Gentleman. It's a Cinderella story trope. Loved it more than I had imagined I would. Now, book 4, which is Colin and Penelope's story, I had super high expectations because I love Colin and Penelope. I'm so looking forward to the next season of Netflix Bridgerton because I want to see that story come to the screen. So excited for it. The book disappointed me. Also because in book 4, the storylines between Eloise and Penelope are kind of both going on, and I didn't have book 5 on hand, which is Eloise's story. So I feel like we were kind of like going into book 5 territory, and I wasn't ready for that because I wasn't prepared. I didn't know. I hadn't been told, and maybe I should have read them two simultaneously. Excuse me. So, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton was 3 stars. And then the other one I have here for 3 stars is Blackmail and Bibinka by Mia P. Manansala. I love the Tita Rosie mystery series. Do I have it here? Yes. Right. No, I didn't bring it. Okay, so Blackmail Bibinka is book 4 in the Tita Rosie. No, book 3. It's book 3 in the Tita Rosie mystery series. There are 4 books. I have all 4. Read 3. Blackmail Bibinka is set in the Christmas holiday season, so I read it in December, and I had read Arsenic and Adobo, gave that 4 stars. Halo Halo Homicide, which is book 2, I don't know if I gave it 3 or 4 stars, but it was good. Blackmail and Bibinka didn't live up to my expectations again, so I gave that 3 stars. I felt like it was, what's the word? I don't know. I felt like it was different. It's different. It wasn't as, it was like a little loose, a little frayed. I felt a little frayed around the edges. It wasn't as like tightly knit or like carefully written. I felt like it just felt a little frayed and like maybe written more loosely, more for fun. I don't know. But I mean, I'm still committed to the series. It didn't send me away. I still am here for that. But it was a 3-star. Question number 5. What does 4 stars mean? 4 stars means great book, definitely on my shelf, probably on my shelf. And examples are The 10,000 Doors of January. I read that in January. Loved it. Great book. Had fun with it. Have it on my shelves. Will keep it on my shelves. That's not a book that I'm looking to give away or donate or anything like that. Hamnet was 4 stars. Hamnet was amazing. It was a great read. Oh my gosh, like that sequence about the flea that travels the world that brings the plague, like incredible writing. 4 stars. 4 stars mostly because the pace was a little slow, so it was a little bit hard to read sometimes because I was getting like had to push myself. When that flea came around, that really like set things into motion for me. But initially, that first part, maybe the first third to the first half of that book, was a little bit of like, okay, like really, really have to like encourage myself and like cheer myself into like picking it up because I wasn't feeling like it's really slow. And maybe I was reading it during the holidays and my holiday season was going like this, like fast paced and everything was happening so fast and this book was like slowing me down. And so maybe that was like an issue. Maybe I'd read it in a different time. But it's a great book. I recommend it. And I have it on my shelf and I'm happy. I am so happy I have a copy. I love Maggie O'Farrell. Love her. Okay, next one. Do you ever do half-star ratings? Nope. No. Do you rate 5 stars often? Yes, I think so. I think I give 5 stars more often than most people have, like on BookTube. I think that from other content creators that I watch, I probably give more 5 star books than anybody else that I know on BookTube that I watch on BookTube. I want to pull up my Notion app because I have here how many 5 star books I read because I'm trying to do a craft with my 5 star books. So my 2023 reading recap. I have that here. Okay, so 5 star books I read 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. 24. I gave 24 books 5 stars in 2023. 24 books, 5 stars in 2023. I have some examples here of books that I gave 5 stars to. I'm not going to go through the whole list nope, I'm running low on time. Okay, examples of 5 star books. Beloved. I read Beloved by Toni Morrison, January of 2023. It was my favorite book of 2023. I was so angry with myself that I had taken so long to read this book. I finished it and I thought, why didn't I read this sooner? Why? Like, why did I procrastinate reading this book? It was so good. And I immediately wanted to talk to everybody about this book. Like, I really wanted someone to talk to about this book. And that is the reason why I created a BookTube channel at the end of January after I read that book. And I was like, I can't, like, I need to talk. I need to have people in my life that I can talk to. And I have no one. So have a copy. I am reading everything Toni Morrison. I mean, I've read other Toni Morrison books and I am like, every book I read by Toni Morrison is great. Love it. Usually with books that are 5 stars, I have in multiple formats. So I have the hardcover, I have an audio, I have a Kindle. Like I have it so I can always have access to it no matter where I'm at, what I'm doing. Temporary by Hilary Lecter. I have this book right here. Love this book. I've talked about it so many times on my channel. I love this book. This was a book that I was like, it was unexpected. I read Hilary Lecter in like a short story collection, loved her short story, immediately wanted to read everything by her because that short story was so good. Picked this up like right away. Like bought it like right away. And I laughed my way through this book. I like hugged this book. I loved it. Was so creative. Like there's just not to me like great writing, funny, satirical storytelling. Love her. Like clever. Yes. Okay. Nuestra parte de noche by Mariana Enriquez. I've talked about this book before. I have it right here. Okay, so this book started the audio, needed to get it because wanted to tab it and like annotate it and write in it. And when I started this book on audio, I was like literally like on Goodreads looking at reviews and trying to see like where I was going to go because I was like, am I DNFing this book or like, is this a 2-star book? This can't be a 2-star book. Like everybody says it's such a great book. And granted, I was at the beginning, right? And I was trying to figure out like, it was hard to get into. It was a difficult book to read. and I stuck with it. I watched articles. I read articles. I watched interviews with the author. I worked myself through this book. It's patient with myself. I gave this book time and I dedicated time to it and attention and open mind. And this book blew my mind. Like, this book stretched me. Like, you hear about books that stretch you. This book stretched me. And this is a 5-star book because it did that for me. Like, it changed my perspective. Like, I started from like, I can't read this book. I'm not ready for this. This is not my jam, to like, wow, this is amazing. This is a gifted writer. This is an amazing saga of a story. Like, I need to read this again, and I'm going to read it again because there's just so much in here. Like, I didn't even tab it all that I wanted to tab it, but anyway, 5 stars. Then this one I've talked about too. Lillian Boxfish Takes a Walk by Kathleen Rooney. Buddy read this with Melinda at Web Stories. Loved it. Loved it. I have this paperback. I have it on Kindle. I have it in audio. I want to read it again. I will probably make it a ritual to read it every New Year's Eve. This is a book that will forever stay with me. And Lillian Boxfish is a character I deeply, deeply love. Like, inspiring character. So those are 5-star books. Has your rating of books changed over the years? Yes. Yes, 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 because books need time. And sometimes we read things and if we're quick to review things, we just never know the impact that book is going to have over time. So there have been times when I have changed ratings over time. Example. Oh, this one. We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. I love Shirley Jackson. When I first read this book, I gave it 4 stars. Then, months after reading it, I couldn't stop thinking about it. A year after reading this, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I kept thinking about the story and these characters for a very, very long time. And then I thought, like, this is a 5-star book. Like, I can't stop thinking about this story. I can't stop thinking about how, like, wow, the story is, the characters, like. And so then I was like, this is 5 stars. Why am I robbing it a star? This deserves 5 stars in my book. Okay. And I will make another video about a book that I am changing my mind, or that is challenging me. And this is why I'm doing these questions, like answering these questions in preparation for another conversation I want to have. And then lastly, where do you record your readings of your books? Goodreads. Sometimes in my journal. And I did it. I got through. Okay. I'm so happy I finished. Thank you so much for watching, and I will hopefully come back with another video soon. Hasta la próxima.